Michael, you must be friends with Brad Jungles and John McCone.
I absolutely am. I didn't know that you know those fellas, but they're a bunch of good dudes running a barbecue sauce company
They're
out here in Kansas City.
awesome. Yeah, awesome dudes. But
Yeah,
that's not how we met.
I'm sure you met through ad work. Were you directing a spot with those fellas?
I directed spots for Brad and John McCone cut them.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a decade, or more, I worked with his dad, Mark McCone, John's
Mm-hmm.
dad. And I
Yeah, yeah.
remember when they launched, and my son and I shot a few things back early on. And I keep in touch with Brad because I'm a fan of Rufus Teague's
Rufus Teague.
barbecue
Yeah,
sauce. And one of your funny spots is for Rufus Teague's
yeah.
barbecue sauce in a can. It looks like John in the spot.
John is in the spot. They were written by
His
Brad.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, John. There's one. I don't know if it's on my website. I'll send it to you if it's not. But it's John's prominently featured in it because it was a football themed one, and
He
he
loves
wanted to be in
football.
it. He does, yeah. But those spots were great. It's also that was a weird when Jungles called me to pitch it. He was like, "So we'd make barbecue sauce and we put it in a can, and it's weird and it's fun, and yeah, I mean that's kind of weird and fun." And a little smart and a little dumb is kind of like the crossroads that I try to live in at all times.
Yeah,
So,
smart and dumb. The intersection of smart and dumb.
yeah, yeah, the old Conan adage. That's me for sure. So, yeah.
So, Michael Martin, how did we meet then?
Hey, you and I, or me and
Yeah,
me
you
and
and I.
Brad Jungles. I don't know
I
if we've
don't care
ever
about
met in
you and Brad
person.
Jungles. I
Yeah,
just thought it was a point of reference for us. I mean, I
yeah,
love Brad. I love you, but together it doesn't do me any good.
yeah. You and I. This is our first meeting face to face.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
know a buddy of mine. His name's Anthony Laddish, also a director in Kansas City. He's taking your class, and he put your name on my radar a few years back, and so I've just been following you and listening to the podcast and trying to pick up and glean. One of the things about being a director in Kansas City is that I live in Kansas City. I work kind of based out of Chicago, and I work all over the country, but because of the physical separation from other folks, I don't get to do I don't really have like other friends that do what I do, and I can't bounce ideas around like at a coffee shop. I've got a friend, John, who lives in LA, who I bounce ideas around a lot. I think he was on your pod just a couple of weeks ago, John Schwartz.
Yeah.
But I have to call and do phone calls, and it's a little harder to have that like personal connection. So anytime I can find a director that I admire their work and their career, I just at least try to follow them and see what they're up to on social and see if I can't just keep up with them that way. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I have to say, I'm flattered that you
Mm-hmm.
reached out, and for me, I want to dispel the myth that if you're in LA, Chicago, New York, or even a secondary market, that there's a bowling league of directors. Like
Sure. Yeah.
there's no
Sure. Sure.
coffee clatch. I think it's called. Said that
Yeah.
we don't all get together and talk about ideas. I mean, there is the Directors Guild in LA. I don't know what it's. I've been to the one in New York, but never as a
Mm.
meeting, just like screenings. So I go to screenings, and I do run into directors and first ADs and second ADs. And after the Spike Lee movie recently, I ran into a couple of people I knew, and we talk about the movie. That's super cool. But other than that, it's a
It's
phone call
pretty.
or a Zoom. And when
Yeah.
you reach out, I would rather just do a podcast and get some content out of our lovely
Yeah.
meeting. You
For
know?
sure. Well, and it's funny you touched on something that I made a pretty concerted effort to remedy last year. It kind of just dawned on me. I was on a walk, and it it was just one of those like realizations that like yeah, no shit. Like directors never run into each other because if on a set I'm the director, there's not other directors around.
You're top of the food chain, baby.
Yeah, and not only that, but like I, I don't ever have the ethos of like I got to be the expert in the room or whatever. But when you're running the show, you don't really want to like lean over to everybody else and be like, well, what do you think I should do here? Like you kind of just run the
Well,
show and you
kiss
go
of
about.
death.
You're right, exactly. And so last year I realized, I was like, you know what? I need to just know more directors. So actually reaching out to you was kind of the same thing, where it's every time I find a director who I like their work or like the content they make or the jobs that they are posting, like I just reach out and say, hey. And it's especially in the world of, I'm sure you get hit up, we all get hit up on Instagram all the time about, there's always an ulterior motive of like a DP wants to connect, which like they're all friendly and it's great, but they want a job, and I get that, and that's the way the world works. But when a director reaches out to another director, like I have nothing to gain. You're not gonna, you're not necessarily gonna give me a job. Like it's just, I just want
Right.
to be pals. Like that's all there is to it. And I
Oh
think there's something
man.
nice about that, being a little disarmed of just talking shop with other people who do what we
I,
do. So
that's exactly the purpose of respect the process, to talk to other people that do what we do. I reach out occasionally on LinkedIn. I'll message someone, a creative director or a creative, and I like their work. And I never, as in absolutely never, go, hey, I would like to work, or
sure, yeah.
what do you got? Because I think it's implied. Like, obviously, I'm a director, and if you have something, that'd be great. But I'm at a point where it's like, if not, I still like your shit. It's a
Always look, yeah.
unsolicited compliment.
Especially if I'm reaching, so I will reach out directly to brands at times, just because the world's changing and it is what it is. But I always, even in the first email, and then when we talk, like the angle I always take is like, I actually just want to be friends with you because I like what you
Mhm.
do, and I like,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about reaching out directly to brands, like how much easier it is to make projects for people who make products and services that you actually like. Like it's a much easier prospect to make a commercial for a home brewing company because I'm a home brewer and I like the equipment that they make. So just calling out and making friends is part of it. And really, like, I think it's maybe even just the post-COVID thing of having to, socialization doesn't happen by default as much as it used to, for me anyway, where there's always a happy hour or a screening or whatever. And so now I've just tried to be like a little more proactive of reaching out when I think someone's worth talking to. So
Teach me how to reach out to Jarritos. Jarritos is a Mexican soda,
yeah.
sugary sweet, colorful, and I have a cooler, a
Hmm.
bear-proof cooler. It's not a Yeti, but it's like, I think it's a
Yeah.
Walmart ripoff of Yeti, but it is bear-proof, made in the USA. And I stock it full of Jarritos on set, and I bring it in my trailer to set, and I give it to anybody, crew, cast, creatives, anybody that wants it. Because I love Jarritos and I don't drink a lot of sugar anymore, but I do on set. It fuels my creativity.
Yeah.
And I love their Instagram, and it matches Ben Brady, my son's vibe as a cinematographer director. And I want to do commercials for Jarritos or
That's
content. I want to know how to reach out other than just doing it on my own and posting it or sending it. And
yeah, the like spec work backdoor pilot type of thing. I never vibed much with that, but the couple of clients that I do have that are direct. One of them is Boulevard Beer, which is they're a craft regional size brewery in
sure.
Kansas City. But I grew up, when I was in college, I was drinking Boulevard wheat beer, and it was kind of, how we all have those like dream clients and they escalate as your career goes on. But for me, that was the first one. I was like, once I get that, I'm a director now. That was the threshold for me.
I love
And
it.
the way we got that is, I mean, we literally just went to bars that carried Boulevard beer and asked them, "Can you connect us to the distributor?" And then we followed the gumshoe trail all the way to their brand manager, and we
Like a
just said like,
detective.
kind of, yeah, a little bit. And I think there's a little bit of, in those days, it's a blessing of like youth and ignorance of how things work, where you just do it. And
Naivete, we say.
oh yeah, for sure. And we did have like a little a buddy of mine, Caleb Bratchard, who's another director. We had like it was kind of a spec spot, but it really was just something we shot at a bar, and we showed it to them because it applied to them, and they were like, "Well, we don't need anything right now, but we'll call you." The other thing with reaching out to clients directly is like some of the work that I'll do for those clients, like they don't have the $1 million ad budgets, but they do come to me and say, we have X amount of money. do you want to write an idea, and then we'll just make it. And so a lot of the spots that I've done for them, like, they came out of my brain, which is
That's fun.
that's the best. Those are the best
Kind of the
jobs,
holy
And
grail.
yeah, and it's
When,
you have to give up the payday, but whatever, who cares?
what I love about your website here, which is twoseam.com. Am I
Mhm.
saying that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a baseball,
Twoseam.com.
like a two seam
Twoseam.
fastball. Yeah,
Yep. But you don't
yeah,
have to tell Mr. Sports. Actually, you did. I had no idea that that's what
yeah,
that
yeah,
meant. uh, you say, do you have an idea but no clue about the budget? Great. We can work with that. Do you have a
yeah.
budget in mind with no idea what to make? Sure thing. We do that all the time. Do you have an idea? Oh, no, sorry. Do you have no idea, no money, no clue, and just need someone to talk to? Yep, hit us up.
That's me. Yeah.
I love
Uh,
that.
Yeah. So that's my little. I started a production company when I left a job at an agency,
What
Barkley here.
agency?
Barkley was the name of it. They
Berkeley.
just merged with
That's where I met.
OKRP.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where you met John
that's where
and
I met Brad Jungles and his partner Matt at the time. We did a ton of work for years. Then there was and I don't know if you ever met my buddy Steve Spencer was their
hmm
creative director. Steve's a Texan and he wears flip-flops 24/7, 52 weeks a year. And he and I and Brad and Matt and we did a bunch of Barkley jobs. Then there was kind of a changing of the guard,
hmm
right?
Yeah,
And
things changed. Yeah,
I was thrown out with when the creatives all left and Brad joined the barbecue and Steve went
yeah,
somewhere else. And I kept in touch with a lot of them. Oh, so Barkley, a lot of great work came out of Barkley, and then they recently merged, but still are independent, so that's cool. So you were
I was an
part of
in-house team. Yeah,
yeah, you were part of the death of the production company world.
yeah, I am. I'm very sorry. Yeah, and it's really funny. I always tell this story that I was in the in-house team, and when you're younger and you're on that team, you have the delusions of like, man, I want to make the cool work, not just the case studies. So
Right.
I left and tried to go do my own thing. And about that time, there's like a little bit of a sea change where some of the mid-sized budgets started going back to the in-house teams.
Oh,
So
really?
I don't know. At least in the budgets that I pitch, every now and again it'll be like, here's the triple bid, and then also their in-house team is pitching it. And if the in-house team is good, which most of them are, their treatments are good. Their budgets are usually a little lower because they have less hard costs. But I
Is
have
the is
pitched
the
and
deck
lost
stacked?
against them.
You've lost against the in-house team.
Yeah, it's
Are
I
you
don't know.
surprised? I mean, it's a
Yeah,
revenue source
sometimes.
for the agency. I'm not
I
surprised.
mean, well, no, that angle, no, I'm not surprised at all. But I do, you know, sometimes it's just like a logistics thing of at the ever shrinking budgets and smaller timelines and quicker turnarounds. Like, I think sometimes having been on that team, I do know that there's sometimes a familiarity of like, when you're going to get in the trenches and be on a budget that's too small and a timeline that's too tight, like you kind of want to be with the people that you already were in the trenches with. So I get that part, but I only have that perspective because I used to be in those trenches. Had I not been, yeah, I think it would have been a little bit different perspective. But yeah, and I still talk to. There's a bunch of guys that were on that team that I still stay in touch with. That
See,
I
there's your
have good taste
club.
there. Yeah, yeah.
There's your coffee
That's my
club.
club. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We should start a bowling league.
You should, and
Yeah.
have your own shoes. Don't rent the shoes. That's
No,
gross.
never. Yeah.
Michael, what's interesting, I've been saying since really probably about 2017 or 18, advising newer directors to try to get the in-house gig because you're shooting more than if you're a director raising money to shoot a spec or getting smaller clients these days or shooting with your iPhone, whatever. I just think it's like if you want to work out, you can't afford a gym membership, work at the gym,
Yeah.
right?
I also I tell younger folks the same thing. Like I was it wasn't my first couple of years, but I had been at a post house for a few years, but I think I spent almost 5 years at Barkley. And yeah, it's a lot of case studies and a lot of like stuff that is you'll never see the light of day after you hit send on it. But every now and again, a job for Dairy Queen would pop up, and they didn't have the budget to send it out of house. And then when I was only 4 or 5 years into my career as a filmmaker, I had, well, here's a Dairy Queen thing that I did.
Look at that.
There's very little budget on it, and it was a quick turnaround. But like, someone sees Dairy Queen on there, so cool. That's really rad.
Michael Martin got the DQ on the reel. Did it ever lead off your reel because it was a national brand and a colorful spot and a good-looking finish to the film?
I think those types of jobs led me to at least get interest from other production companies.
Gotcha.
That could see like, it's a little bit of a threshold of, well, there's some national brands on there. And then another huge thing that happened through that connection with Barkley was they do a charity event every year called Big Slick.
I know the Big Slick. David Koechner, Rob Riggle, Paul Rudd.
All those dudes. And
Sheryl Crow might be involved in the Big Slick.
She came one year, and so Barkley handled all of Big Slick stuff. And one year, they just needed something done very quickly. It was very early in my production company, and they called me, and I made it. And so now I've got a piece where like I've got Paul Rudd's face on my website as well. That's huge. That's a huge thing that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't had that agency connection, and that I think led into especially with celebrity work as a young director. Once you have one, then they can pitch you on more, and then the ball gets rolling. And I wouldn't have had that without Barkley, so I'm pretty thankful for that.
And the great thing about Paul Rudd with his ever youthful face, no one knows how old the spot is.
Nope. Yeah.
It's all about relationships.
From that.
Yeah, it really is. It's all relationships, and that's the biggest commodity. I often talk real relationship revenue being last, real being what I'm creatively stingy about, but the relationships are really the currency. Right before we hopped on this recording, I was on with a friend, big ECD at an agency that I work with, and he, I know when the call comes in, hey, we don't have a big budget, but it's really funny. And can I explain it to you? And I go, you can explain it to me, but you had me when the phone rang with your name on it. Like, you're calling. Yeah. I don't care if it's like pointing the camera at dog poop, which would be funny for 30 seconds, like if the voiceover was good.
Funny that you say that. I did do that for a case study one time.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God. Yeah,
literally,
it was a pet pharmaceutical.
Oh, that's funny.
It was fake. It was a prop,
Of course, of course. Yeah. You got it down at the gag shop. Yeah. You got it at the joke shop.
It's funny because as you were telling that story about like if my phone rang, there is one executive creative director that I've worked with that I got to know at Barkley that if he called me, it wouldn't matter. I would just work with him and he was the one that I made that case study with. I don't think I would have made a dog poop pharmaceutical case study had it not been him calling, but the story you're talking about, I actually did. So, yeah.
And just to clarify for the listeners, we have never, this was not a planned comedy bit. This was just, that was just pure synchronicity and magic between Michael and Jordan. I have a couple executive creative directors who have my bat phone number. It's a special red old school phone I keep under a glass cake thing.
Do you really?
And when it lights up, I know we're shooting a commercial.
Of that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go buy a red landline today just because that's a cool thing to have around.
It's a cool prop. Yeah. So are you comfortable talking budgets of an in-house case study and an in-house project versus, let's say Barkley has a 2-day shoot for one of their bigger clients. They're going to spend $500,000 to maybe $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million. Is that fair?
For the external facing stuff.
Yeah, external stuff. They're going, Michael, you and your Dusty Rhodes T-shirt can sit this one out. We're going to go to Hungry Man Films and get a director we haven't heard of because Brian Buckley's going to turn this down. But still, we're going to be happy we have Hungry Man. Because that's how it works sometimes, right?
That's how it works most of the time.
Then they go, well, we got this in-house project. What is that budget? that typically an in-house agency would do.
Yeah, those are all over the place, and I can only speak to. I left
Yeah, understood.
the
Barkley.
agency world, probably almost 9 years ago. But those would be anywhere from like sometimes it would be like, hey, we have $5,000. You just got to go figure this out. And sometimes it would be, I think on the high end, we'd have like maybe up to 100 when we needed like a full cast and maybe a little bit of a set build and all that.
But
There was
you're on
oftentimes travel,
salary.
too. Yeah.
You're on
So
salary, and so is the crew. Like,
it's a mix. So
Veronica, grab a
we would,
camera. Tanisha, get a
yeah,
boom
exactly.
microphone. We're doing a shoot, and Michael Martin's going to direct.
Kind of like that. And sometimes you'd find local crews when you needed to fill it out. And they're most in-house production since I left. I left when in-house production was kind of it wasn't in its infancy, but it wasn't what it is today. When
Sure.
I see other agencies now, VML is here in town as well.
Yeah.
They have an insanely sophisticated production crew there with a great director and DP and a full post house. And they are full bore production companies. And when I left, it was a more like, hey, here's a couple of guys and gals that are really good at their gigs, but it's scrappy and small and super nimble. You could do things like there was one for DQ. I didn't end up going on it, but they told us on like a Friday, they were like, hey, the Queen's 90th birthday is in 2 days. You want to get on a plane and go to London and shoot this? And there's no pre-production. You just grab your camera and go, and you bring your Blizzard prop and you hire an actress and you just go shoot content. It's a lot more akin to how people make content, quote unquote, today.
Yeah.
Where it's just, you just go do it. That was more of the stuff that we were doing. That's the long in the tooth answer.
It was actually quite succinct. And at first, when you said it's the Queen's birthday, I was like, you mean all these years I've never known that Dairy Queen has a queen? But you meant the Queen of England. I remember
Queen
that.
of England, yeah. It was her
What-
90th birthday, and they wanted to give her a Blizzard from one Dairy Queen to the other Queen. So yeah,
And it's a prop Blizzard that's perfect with sprinkles and everything.
I think that's what they took with
Yeah.
them, and they brought an actress that they put in a Dairy Queen. Like, she looked like a drive-through employee, and she was like standing outside of Buckingham saying like, "Hey, I brought you a Blizzard," and then she didn't answer. I guess we'll leave it here for her and end on a product shot. So
I love it.
Yeah, and I edited that one. I wasn't able to go on the trip, but I cut it together, and it's that's a typical thing that would happen at an agency where it's just like, hey, can you do this in 3 days? And you just kind of say yes and figure it out. That mentality is not, for big dog commercials where you do have budget. I don't love to take everything from that and put it in these big commercials, but sometimes it does help to have that like background of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, we're just going to say yes and figure it out. And money solves problems and time solves problems. So we can say yes now, and I can take that mentality, and by the shoot date, we'll have something handled. And I that's a huge lesson that I use almost every production still to this day.
Wow, that's a great story. That's a great knowledge nugget lesson that you've dropped right there. Here's the other thing that you've got me thinking about, because you said that the early days of in-house production is more akin to content, which can be very reactionary to things in the market. And I think we've seen one of the best Canadian exports ever, Ryan Reynolds, with his agency, especially a couple years ago. He was really hot with reacting to something in the zeitgeist and shooting it because he had his own, well, he's a millionaire and he had his own production company. And with AI, even without AI, being able to react to something, like I say AI because, like I personally did just a still, but a funny spoof of the Sydney Sweeney
Jeans thing,
jeans ad. And I was almost too late. I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to be like, oh, a week later you're doing the bit. And it was just a post, but it was, I thought it was funny. And I think with ads, being able to write, direct, edit, deliver, and even post, like
Huge.
I'm looking more at my own original content these days and doing that just for fun and because the tools and the means are now available. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
huge.
whole nother, it's a whole nother creative outlet. And so, yes, I want to do the Haritos, but if I'm going
Mm.
to spend my own time and energy and resources, I might as well just do it for fun or for a product of my own,
Just for the
which is,
love of the game.
yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I have commercial directing film school as a product. So I've learned AI on the back of that, and I've done shoots for that, typically on the back of a paying production to get
Yeah,
the
smart.
production values up, right?
Yeah.
But here's my point, other than trying to subliminally plug commercial directing film school, and you can learn more at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com, is the in-house agency, even as they've grown into these behemoth full-fledged production arms, still have an advantage to execute faster turnarounds because it's all in a vertical thing. And I'll
Yeah.
give you an example here that goes beyond the agency. I was just when I was in Houston, I talked to a friend. He had produced. He's kind of a fixer producer, Francisco. He's a wonderful guy. He took a job at Chevron, I believe, and they have their own LED wall
Mm-hmm.
and 4 stages within, I think it's Chevron, but it's an oil company that makes billions of dollars a minute. So the
Mm.
CEO doesn't have to go over to the green screen shoot across town. The CEO, to do the monthly report, gets on an elevator, whoop, gets off on the 3rd floor, gets in front of the LED wall. They put, a oil rig out at sea
Yeah.
behind him, and he does his thing. 20 minutes later, he's wrapped, goes back up to work.
And no post. No
No,
keying, no, you just cut it.
nothing.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
that leads me to think my advice years ago to young or new filmmakers to go in house is still relevant, but it also may apply to this old dog can learn a new trick. Like, at a point, why not just go in house at an agency or more increasingly an evil corporation?
That's my retirement plan, I think. When I'm done chasing pitches and these, I've never done $1 million budget. I think the highest I've ever done was like 400 or 500. So I'm by commercial standards, I'm still a small dog. I'm not in the big dog category yet.
I don't know. $400,000 or $500,000 is
Medium,
good.
medium dog.
Yeah, unless it's for a 12-day shoot, then it's
Yeah,
terrible.
that's true. But I think going in house like something like that is something that it could be seen as like you got to swallow your pride and go to work for the man and all that, or it could also be seen. My friend Anthony Laddish,
I know
did
Anthony.
go to yeah.
He came to boot camp.
Yeah, he went to your boot camp, and he probably gave me the best bit of advice that I got when I was struggling a few years ago, which was like I was just whining about this awful job, awful budget, awful schedule. And he's like, "Hey man, it beats working for a living." And I was like, "Oh, I never kind of thought about what we do is kind of a fantasy. So, enjoy yourself. And if I can do that in house, fine. That's good with me."
I wonder if it was Anthony that inspired something I believe in is that, and this was even before the pandemic, that you can live anywhere and direct commercials. You may have to try a little harder. You may have to take on a job, another role, wear another hat for some shoots when you're not directing, but you can make a living as a filmmaker anywhere if you hustle. Yeah, because why would, and I've probably said this a zillion times over the years on the podcast, Michael, is if you can live somewhere and have your kids can play with their cousins and you can barbecue with your in-laws or have your folks watch the kids when you go on a date, like the quality of life. And I
Yeah,
grew up and I raised my kids in Los Angeles and I love it. But I have family here. So it's different,
sure,
but
it's a little different. Yeah.
to move out and get a shitty apartment that you pay 3 times as much as you would as a
Yeah.
mortgage in Kansas City,
Yeah, let me tell you what my mortgage payment is for a 3-bedroom house here. It's it's like maybe $1,600. So
my goodness.
I have no motivation to leave now that I can take an agency call this
Mm-hmm.
way, and I do all the time. And because I spent time at an agency, as soon as I always tell the production companies, like, if you can get me on the kickoff call, I speak that language well, and I know their struggles. And like half of what we do, I think directing with talent, especially, it's just so much of it's just about empathy and connecting with people quickly. But I lived in those shoes. Like, I know what that world's like. And so I think people pick up on that with me pretty quickly. And we feel, rather than a client vendor, we're pitching and talking to each other, like, it feels like I'm on their team quickly.
Already from the get-go.
Because I am on that first call, and it's great. But to tie back to what you said, I can do those kickoff calls on Zoom now. I don't have to be in a room and on Madison Avenue or in downtown Chicago. Like, I can do that here, and it works. And now I have a 3-bedroom house. So
I would say they were never in person, though, because when I started in the late '90s, it was a conference call around a speaker box.
Sure, yeah.
And there were a couple. There was a big job. It was like Prilosec OTC, probably one of the bigger shoots I ever did. It was like 9 days, millions of dollars. I flew to New York for the follow-up pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when treatments were white papers with a couple of pictures. They weren't coffee table books. And I did the first call, and then I sort of fibbed. I bought a ticket to New York and told the production company, hey, I have to go to New York for this meeting with like Miramax. But I'd just done a movie with Miramax, so it wasn't out of the realm of possibilities that I would go to a meeting with Miramax. And I actually did go have a meeting once I got the ticket. And I stayed at, it might as well have been a youth hostel. When the production company found out I was going to New York, I said, can I go to Publicis and meet to hand in the treatment and go over it? And so I stayed right across the street. I walked to the agency, and I did the follow-up pitch and got the gig.
Killer.
And I would do that again if I could. I would go in person anywhere. Because like you, I'm devilishly handsome.
I do feel good in a room, and I do like all the little nuance of nonverbal communication that gets lost over a Zoom. I'm good at picking up on, but I'm trying to be better about even just coming into a room, and I'm a comedy director mostly too, so there's something about, you kind of have to just show people, like, hey, I can get a laugh pretty quick on a phone call and build that rapport quickly, especially as a comedy director. When you talk to I always view the lifestyle guys as like they're the cool dudes who are climbing the mountains and riding their mountain bikes and all, and like I'm the guy who like is yes-anding goofy script ideas, and I just always feel like such a dork. But if I can be a little charming and a little funny on the first call, I feel like I'm at least gonna get invited at some point. Maybe not for that pitch, but hopefully for another one.
Oh, that's great. Do you use this microphone that you're using, the Shure SM7B, when you do a Zoom, or just for me today?
I will tell you, if this is making me present better, if it feels like I'm a little more polished, I'm going to start using it on my pitch calls. Usually it's just my AirPods, but
I use this microphone ever since 2013.
Nice. Yeah.
But we weren't Zooming back then, so it was a rare. In fact, it was Skype, and did they drop the ball, the Skype people.
God, the fumble of the century.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott. I'll come make a Skype commercial. Anyone at Microsoft, but that's a fumble for sure.
Is it still available?
I don't even know. They probably shut it down. I don't like a company that big. I'm always curious. Like those companies who can just write off a failure of that size are baffling to me. That's not something that I can even compute. So.
Well, ever since we started Zooming pitches, I've used the mic, and I try to have decent lighting, even like in the trailer here, natural light. I know the time of day when I look good. In afternoon, I'll open the hatch, and because I think it's important. I want every advantage, and I want to sound, clear and authoritative in some way. And
Yeah.
so
And it's also just a testament to, like, I mean, the podcast is called Respect the Process. And like my process with anything, or actually, this is a good story. So during the pandemic, I own a small production company, so I had a little bit of gear sitting around like a lot of us do, but it wasn't working. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I am an avid home cook. I love cooking. I love food. I'm half Italian too, so I think it's just part of my DNA. But I started a cooking show. And as I was like, it was twofold. It gave me something to do physically, like shooting and stuff, but it gave my brain something to chew on of like, okay, I can't concept a commercial or a pitch. Like, let's come up with a cooking show idea. I chewed on that for a while, and it was, we all make our little passion projects, short films or docs and all that. You never think about making just a YouTube show, but because of that, I had no, there's no pretense of it had to be successful or it needed to go on a festival. It was just me expressing myself. And what I came up with was an idea called the full measure. Because, if I'm going to make burgers, I'm not the guy that's going to like just buy the packaged burgers and put them on the grill. I'm going to buy sirloin and ground chuck.
You're a
put it in
crap
my
brewer.
freezer and then put it in my food processor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do everything, full measure, whole ass, as they say. And part of that is for me in the pitch process. It comes through in that when I go on that call, I just did one yesterday morning. But like, if I'm not running the slides or someone else is running the slides, like I don't even need to see them because I've rehearsed it 20 times and I know every word that's in there, because that's just part of my process, is to be like granular down to my microphone sounding good, the light being okay, like just having my stuff together. And I think it's probably just my OCD, just needing to feel control over those things. But I do think it describes, I'm pitching the second they see my email address, my pitch process has started. Like that's part of the whole thing. And that type
intriguing.
of obsessiveness. Yeah. And then that type of obsessiveness is definitely part of everything that I do. So.
And so on your first pitch, you are doing a slide presentation?
No, not on the first call.
Huh.
But
when you do the treatment call.
Yeah. But I try to think of, it especially on the first calls and even on the treatment calls, you get 30 minutes to convince someone to give you $300,000. You get, 25 slides in 30 minutes. Like that's, when you break it down into like just the elemental form of like, hey, we're going to give you $300,000 to make our commercial. And I've got one, maybe 20-minute phone call, 15, 20 slides, and then another 30-minute phone call. And then they just have to decide based on that. And then
is that $10,000 a slide?
That's a good, I never break it down that way.
Yeah. I thought that's where you were going.
No, but because I've also been on the inside too, like I know not only do I have to sell them on me, I have to get them versed enough on the Michael Martin show that they sell me to their client.
Yeah, they got to sell the Michael Martin show and get tickets, front row seat.
Yeah. I got to build fans, and I got to do it in 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, this has been great chatting about this, learning so much. And why did you, or let me ask it this way, where were you when you had the aha moment of, I'm leaving Barkley, I'm going to start Two Seams?
That's there's a couple elements to that. There was a politician, his name's Jason Kander. He was the Secretary of State for the state of Missouri. I couldn't talk about it then, I can now. He was getting ready to run for president in 2016. He had to end up stopping because he had some mental health issues that had to be dealt with from his, he had spent time in Afghanistan, special forces. So he had some stuff to go through. But he tweeted out, hey, I need someone to make video content for me. And I was just like, okay, I'll try it. I had to set up a Twitter account just to respond to that tweet. But that night, I'm sitting in his kitchen talking to him and his wife. And
that night,
it was, people on that trail they're moving quick. Yeah. But they asked me if I would be interested. They told me how much they could afford, which was less than I was making at the time. But I thought about it as like, hey, that's a great first client to have. I can have that client. and then I can go do director work on the side. And then that only ended up lasting for a few months, but that gave me the confidence to take the leap. Also, I at the time had been with my partner for a while, so we had a 2-income household. Which, if anybody wants to be a freelance director, go find a partner that will financially support you, because that's it's kind of an important part of the equation sometimes. Yeah. So,
or at least has insurance.
Sure. Yeah, that the health insurance bit that's an important one for sure.
So you were having this inkling of a feeling that it was time to leave the in-house agency production,
mm-hmm.
but you didn't know how to do it. And you see the tweet by the special forces soldier turned politician, and you thought, that's my ticket out of here. So you craft 140 characters.
It was just, yeah.
That's cool. Do you still have those spots?
And it worked, and it was, so what we ended up making was a vlog. This was 2014.
Sure.
No, this was 2017, so I don't remember when it was, but it was
back
very
when people
Casey
said
Neistat inspired. Yeah, it was that type of thing. And I think we made between like 15 and 30 episodes, and they're still out there.
Wow, that's a lot of content.
And we did it quick. I would get on the plane in the morning. We would go to wherever we were going. I'd film all day. Sometimes we would stay the night, and I'd fly home, edit for 2 days, get on the plane. I mean, I was taking probably between 6 and 8 flights a week.
All around Missouri, right? Because he was running for president, so he would go everywhere.
He was going to, yeah. So he was everywhere, and he and I became pals. I'm still good friends with with both him and his wife. His wife and him are both New York Times bestsellers, living in the same house. So I just stay in touch with them. They're both super talented folks, but it is also a little indicative of my career, which is like no one in my family is creative at all. They don't play so much as an instrument, let alone work in a creative profession. So this for me has always been like, I've had a real blue collar approach to like, I'm just going to keep trying until something works. And at the time it was, I'm going to quit and make this vlog. And then after that didn't work, I'm going to reach out to production companies and just kind of keep at it until something starts taking. And in the last like probably 5, 6, 7 years, probably, I do feel like things have started to take hold. My body of work has grown enough where I feel like you look at my stuff and I feel like I have an angle on the type of comedy and the type of spots that people are. It's nice because lately I feel like I'm getting reached out to for spots that are on brand for me and my sensibilities rather than
point
just
of view.
You have
you have a comedic point of view that comes through. Favorite pieces of work. It's for Serious Bean Company, Buffalo beans, Dr. Pepper beans, and
that's a wild one.
Yeah, and at the end of one of the spots, they're listing things that they love, and then at the end, the three of them are out by a barbecue, and the guy goes, "Freeze frame," and they just stop. That's funny to me. That's working sensibility, and that's you. Yeah, they freeze. So you don't freeze frame the video; they just stop.
I always like playing with. So I always tell people I got into. A lot of filmmakers are like, "Oh, I saw Star Wars, and I wanted to become a filmmaker." I loved Star Wars as a kid, but I genuinely love advertising and commercials. I did when I was a kid. I do today. So there's always an angle of like, I'm playing with like a nod and a wink at what we're doing, which is it's filmmaking for making advertising. I even have one for that beer company where you can hear the narration, the VO talking, and like the voiceover actor is talking to himself and saying, wait, hold on, this script can't be right. No, yeah, that's right. And there's always this like meta thing that if I can sell that in, is really fun.
Self-referential.
Was
there a movie that you saw? Did you like Mel Brooks? He kind of did that early on.
Mel Brooks for sure. But then a lot of it, like, I'm in a weird cusp, like where I grew up on a lot of the classic films, but I'm also I was a real early adopter of like internet humor and all that. I also like the Lonely Island guys are like square in the crosshairs of my high school.
Yeah.
So type of. It's always a little tongue in cheek, and never took itself too seriously. And even to this day, like I still am an avid SNL viewer, but like the directors that I follow their careers closely are like Mike Diva
Yeah,
and
Mike
Dan
Diva's
Bula.
great. We
Yeah,
got to get
and
Mike
like
Diva on the show, Helen.
yeah, you
He
do.
posts a lot of behind the scenes from his
He
SNL work
does,
too. Seems like a nice
and
fella.
he does. And Dan Bula has been that's a newer one for me. But they both work on SNL, but they make this. It's always this like. It's dumb comedy for smart people, the like Conan approach, where it's like just goofy stuff, but you do kind of have to be paying attention to get some of the layered nuance of the joke. And I like that stuff. I think that's fun. And also, like bring it back to that Beans commercial. Yeah, you can do the heady joke, but then also the faces that some of those people are making they're just goofy, and they're kind of absurd. And hopefully you can get a laugh out of that if you don't pick up on the other part of the joke.
Wow, that's been great. It's been great hearing learning all this. What I like
Yeah.
about the SNL stuff is they have even the song parodies that go on long, or they're not parodies; they're actually like just funny songs. They'll do a music video.
Yeah.
There's usually a
Mm-hmm.
third act twist to it. It kind of
Almost always.
turns
Yeah.
in on itself. That's what I saw in that commercial, that they were doing it, and then yeah, they made fun of themselves being in a commercial. So bravo, Michael, bravo.
Thank you.
Michael,
Thank you.
we have to come to a close. A couple of questions
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
So someone's
Yeah.
listening on, they're on their treadmill right now, or they're walking the dog around the lake, and they stop and they look
Mhm.
down at the show notes on their phone, and there's a hot link when they click Michael Martin. Where do they click on that link? Where does it take them?
Well, because this is Respect the Process, I would love other directors or anybody who's interested to talk about or see my work to go to I have a director website that is Michael Martin, my name, .co. That's where you can find all of the work that I've directed. I have a production company, but I care more about my directing work than running a production company. So yeah,
are you available for freelance? Go ahead. I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, it's just michaelmartin.co, and I can text you or I'll email you the
.co.
But
yeah, no, I can figure that out. That's pretty easy.
Yeah,
I just don't want someone
You'd be
to think
surprised how many people can't spell Michael.
Really?
It's wild how often people misspell my name. Yeah.
Do you own michaelmartin.com?
There is a photographer named Michael Martin who I have actually talked to him, and
you
he
offered
will not
him
give
money.
it up. I offered him money, good money.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
we can't all be JordanBrady.com. So
I bought that early.
Yeah.
There's there's actually some young comedian named Jordan Brady, and there's I think in either Australia or it's New Zealand. There's a Jordan Brady that's a songwriter as part of a duo called Winterborn, and I got one of their BMI music publishing checks because I have a bunch of songs with BMI from a movie, and I was like, well, I didn't write this song, and it was only for like $30 or something, but it was a real rigmarole to get the check to these kids.
That's wild.
It was a pain in the ass for BMI. I'm like, well, it's not my mistake. I have my own catalog of works. The last question is how we end the show. What does Respect the Process mean to Michael Martin?
That's a good one. And I spent some time thinking about it because I knew that question was coming. I think for me, I'm a highly impatient person, and I know that my best work, not only professionally, but even like personally, like if I want to get better at, anything in my personal life, having respect is also having the patience to understand that like it is a process. My process for coming up with treatments is the same every time now. Like put my headphones on, I put on the same like 4 or 5 bands that they're just my tried and true, and I go for a walk for like 5 miles, and that's day 1, and day 2 is putting it together, and it just takes time and having the patience of like, I can't bang out a treatment in one sit down. Maybe other people can do that, but like giving myself the space and the time and the permission to do the process is the hardest part for me, because I want to have a phone call and then a treatment that night, and it just doesn't work that way.
My
So yeah,
wife will go,
that's my abridged answer.
that's a great answer. My wife will go, have you been working on the treatment? I go, all day. She goes, what, have you written anything? Not at all, but I think I have a cover page. I think I found the image for the cover, and I know my attack. So I'll get
Right.
on my electrical bicycle,
Yeah.
analogous to your walk, and just ride around and be like, okay. And sometimes it's as simple as I'm going to skip all the bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm going to get right to I'm going to start with going through the scripts, and then I've never met these people before. Oh, maybe I got to hire someone to make it look pretty, or just all I'm thinking about the strategy of how do I present myself and my approach. And lately, the treatments are minimal, 12
Yeah.
pages, because I'm just
No joke.
tired. Yeah, I'm tired.
Well, sure. I try to keep it under 30, but it's, it's also
They don't read them. They don't
well, for
read.
one, they don't read them. I started making them as websites, and I feel like that's gotten a little bit better. But we're also, I know you do a lot of comedy, and like so much of that for me, and part of that process for me is like sometimes the comedy's in the room, and it's not going to be on the page. It's going to be in the way that I cast it and the jazz that I'm playing with those people. And like, how do you can't put, just trust me, bro, on your treatment and then hope that they hire you. But you kind of do have to sell them on that. So, yeah.
I have actually said, in fact, I said this recently and lost the job. At the end of the day, won't you just put in my reel? And if that works and you like that humor, like everything I'm telling you that we're going to do and the jokes and the ad libs and alt lines, all that's great. But at the end of the day, isn't the tone of humor in the 7 spots that the rep sent, isn't that going to tell you what I'm going to deliver? Because the film's going to look like that,
Right.
right?
You
And
would think. Yeah,
I
you would
would
think.
think,
Well, and it's also, I know oftentimes too, it's like, hey, this joke is a yo-yo comes down and hits a dog on the head. Do you have any spots where you have a yo-yo hit a dog directly on the head and that's comedy? And you're like, nah, not really, but I could do that. And they're like, well, but that's what we're looking for. So,
yeah, I have a boomerang that hits a koala, but
yeah.
I don't know if that translates.
Nah, we'll have to keep looking. Sorry.
Michael, this has been a pleasure to chat and to get to know you. Invite me to the Bowling League's
Absolutely.
championships. I'll fly in. And listeners, check out the work at michaelmartin.co. That's
Mm-hmm.
Michael AEL at the end.
That's it. Yeah,
And please keep in touch and keep me informed of
will
your
do.
successes.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and looking forward to rolling some strikes with you.
I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.